Hey everybody, Tony here with a review of Donizetti's Lucia de Lammermoor with conductor Fabrizio Maria Carmenti, which was live 2 years ago from the Opera di Firenze. I was anticipating this particular audio recording of Lucia because of the star-studded cast, mainly headed by the likes of Jessica Pratt, Jean-Francois, Julian Kim, and Riccardo Zanellato in the very pivotal roles of Lucia, Edgardo, Enrico, and Raimondo, respectively. The short answer was they all did magnificently, even the minor characters. Want to find out the long answer? Well, let's start right now with Jessica Pratt, who sang the role of Lucia Ashton. This was a role that Miss Pratt has been singing for many years in a lot of opera venues all around the world. And from what I've been hearing in her voice, there is always something to admire about how Jessica Pratt managed to sing everything, especially when it comes to roles like Lucia Ashton. What I really love about her voice is the fact that she's able to be technically secure, but at the same time, she's able to pour out such rich, lovely, and gorgeous tones. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you should know that I definitely love Jessica Pratt with a passion. Her overall dedication to her craft as a complete singing actress and everything that she does when it comes to her prowess as a wonderful Bel Canto specialist, and everything she has to offer is just so wonderful to witness. Granted, I have not heard her live, but based on what I've been hearing, it is a voice I am so in love with. It is a gorgeous, lyric, dramatic coloratura soprano voice. It's expressive. It manages to hit all those high notes well, especially the high E flat in Verano a Te, the high F in Accedi Accedi, her duet with Raimondo, who was sung by Riccardo Zanellato, and of course, who can ever forget her arias Regnava nel silenzio, and of course the mad scene Il dolce suono, which she manages to toss in some high notes here and there. And even though I would have loved these two arias to have been sung in their original keys, like have Regnava nel silenzio in the key of E flat, and have Quando rapito in estasi in the key of A flat major, and of course the mad scene in the key of F, I still have to give lots of credit to Signora Pratt for everything she had to offer as Lucia. Her technical prowess is of the highest order. She did an amazing job, as she's always been in this particular role, which has always been her signature role, and she continues to find a lot of nuances, a lot of very interesting facets about Lucia, and she stood really tall when it comes to this role. She shone like the brightest of stars, and she showed no signs of stopping. She showed no signs of fatigue, and she was an overall flawless singing actress. I have to give my hat off to Jessica Pratt for a job outstandingly done when it comes to singing one of her all-time signature roles. Jean-Francois was also a fine soloist as he sang the role of Edgardo. He was in absolutely fine form thanks to his lyric tenor voice, which manages to sound so fine all throughout. And even though there were some areas where he was a bit insecure, like his high C in the Verano a Te, I still have to give a lot of credit to Jean-Francois for his endurance, for his overall charm, and for his overall determination and guts and valor in making the role of Edgardo come to life. It was just a fine performance all around, and he was a pretty strong performer in his own right. And he managed to stand hand in hand with Jessica Pratt when it comes to their vocal chemistry and just how they managed to act off of each other so well. And of course, he was at his strongest in the final act with his arias Fra poco me ricovero, and of course his final aria Tu che a Dio spiegaste l'ali. He was at his absolute strongest as he was way more secure, and he just seemed to have quite the ball singing the role of Edgardo. And more than anything, his vocal chemistry with Jessica Pratt as Lucia was so superb and very palpable. I really would have loved to see these two live because there was just a lot of great singing from the both of them, and I could definitely tell that both Jessica Pratt and Jean-Francois had a lot of fun really embodying these roles to the best of their abilities. Then we go to Julian Kim, who sang the role of Lucia's brother, Enrico. Now, I have never heard about this particular baritone before, and his name is quite new to me because he seems to be quite young, and he nowadays specializes in a lot of the dramatic baritone roles, mostly in the Italian repertoire. And from what I've heard in this particular baritone is a fine, round, rich, and youthful sounding voice which has a lot of potential. He certainly knows how to embody Enrico's rage, anger, and ambition to a T. He certainly does a fine job with bringing his nobility and his overall stature to this particular role. I can definitely tell that there is a great future ahead for Mr. Kim, especially when it comes to all of these cavalier baritone and even dramatic baritone roles. He has a handsome future, all thanks to that expressively awesome dramatic baritone voice, which shows no signs of fatigue, and he just managed to pull everything together. Riccardo Zanellato was a handsome Raimondo. He certainly did an amazing job with singing all of Raimondo's lines, all thanks to that plush basso cantante voice. He managed to make Raimondo quite noble and imposing, and he was an overall great and dedicated singing actor. The way he was able to modulate his voice, the way he was able to really bring life to Raimondo was, simply put, awesome. He was certainly a fine and wonderful basso cantante, as he's always been, which is no surprise, as a few days ago I also saw him as Zaccaria back when I was in Rome, and I thought he did an amazing job in that role as well. And with Raimondo, I have to say that Riccardo Zanellato certainly knew how to embody this gentleman with a lot of grace, nobility, and of course, strength, all thanks to that plush-sounding, round and rich basso cantante voice. Emanuele Daguanno stole the show once again as Arturo Bucklaw, all thanks to that signature lyric tenor voice which sounds youthful and absolutely gorgeous all throughout the registers. He definitely stole the show, all thanks to his great musicianship, and he definitely had a fine time singing this really small yet kind of thankless part. And he just did an amazing job. He was focused, he was elegant in his phrasing, and he was just absolutely fine. Simona da Capua was gorgeous as Alisa, all thanks to her light lyric mezzo-soprano voice, and Saverio Bambi, a tenor who I've never heard of before, managed to do a fine job with Normanno. Yes, in the first act, I thought he was a bit inaudible, but he seemed to have picked himself up from there, and he just went from strength to strength all throughout the opera, and he did a fine job all throughout. So it's no surprise of what I thought about the singing. It was outstanding, especially when you have superstars like Jessica Pratt, Jean-Francois, Julian Kim, Riccardo Zanellato, Emanuele Daguanno, Simona da Capua, and Saverio Bambi, who did absolutely amazing jobs embodying their roles with great musicianship, great theatricality, and an innate sense of meticulousness, skill, and lots of talent. And the conducting done by Fabrizio Maria Carmiante was well done. It was nuanced, it was crisp, and it was quite gorgeous to listen to, especially when he led the chorus and orchestra of the Firenze Opera House. And speaking of the chorus and orchestra, I thought they were all solid. So overall, with phenomenal singing from the likes of Jessica Pratt, Jean-Francois Borra, Julian Kim, and Riccardo Zanellato, and of course, Emanuele De Guano, just to name a few, there is no doubt that this particular Lucia di Lammermoor is an absolute must listen. And for those of you who heard this particular audio stream or even watched this particular Lucia di Lammermoor at the Opera di Firenze, what did you think of it? Did you feel like Jessica Pratt, Jean-Francois Borra, Julian Kim, and Riccardo Zanellato stood really strong and tall as soloists? Did you feel like there was a singer who managed to steal their thunder? Or did you feel like the singing just didn't really hold up to your standards? Comment below and let me know. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for an album review, and this time it's Jessica Pratt Serenade. So until then, good night everybody.